Hey, how's it going? So today we're doing another one of my weekly I-Ching interpretations. As always, the question for this week is, help me understand what this week holds for me at work and the best attitude to maintain in order to work towards achieving Q1 goals. If you're unsure on how I formulated this question or what my interpretation of this hexagram is going to be, check out some of the links below. There's some great resources on getting started. So let's dive in. For this week, I got 43, breaking through, or resoluteness. Now, the interesting thing is I got a static hexagram. So at the end of this video, we're gonna go to the I-Ching book and look at the blurb they have at the end, which talks about how to interpret it if you got this hexagram static. We start off with the yellow book. 43 starts. This hexagram signifies, on the one hand, a breakthrough after a long accumulation of tension, as a swollen river breaks through its dikes. On the other hand, applied to human conditions, it refers to the time when inferior people gradually begin to disappear. My interpretation of that for my business and kind of what this week holds for me is that it's a time of breaking through. It's a time of things really starting to click, of inferior people going away, as it says. What that means in my context is, I've been putting a lot of work into this business over the last 2 years. And over the last 2 months, the beginning of 2018, we've made a real concentrated effort to grow and stabilize the business. My hope is that we're now kind of at the point where we're breaking through and achieving that. On the side of personal people and people of inferior influence kind of shedding by the wayside, I think it has to do with me internally more than it does external people. As a small business owner, it's me, my co-founder, and one employee. I don't think either of them are going anywhere, and I know they're not inferior people. They're really great. So I think a lot of it has to do with me internally and trying to address some of the issues and my faults as a person and as a small business owner. The first element of this hexagram that I want to talk about is this idea of proclamation, and making a proclamation about your intentions and about your goals. If we turn to the I-Ching book, it says, no compromise is possible. Resolution must spring from your heart and must be voiced to your friends, family, and community. Let others fully know your intentions to overcome obstacles. So the part of my question about the best way to conduct myself this week, I think I need to make a proclamation. I need to get clear on what my goals are, what my obstacles are, and how I'm going to overcome them. I think a lot of this has to do, it's twofold in my case. First is setting and readjusting goals for the month of March as well as for Q2 moving forward. And then also kind of my realization that it's time to go get a job. I'm going to talk a little bit about this at the end, but that's the proclamation I need to make. Now, the I-Ching and the Yellow Book both have great sentences on how to actually go through and make these proclamations and the proper way to do it. So speaking about this proclamation, this should be done calmly, cheerfully, and with authority, thus giving you a psychological advantage, such as a master of gamesmanship holds over his opponent. I love this analogy. I think it's spot on. We've all been in situations, whether that's as a master of gamesmanship or just situations we're comfortable with and familiar with, where we have absolute confidence and authority, we're calm, we're collected, that we know the way we're proceeding is right. This proclamation that we just covered should be done in the same way, and that's my interpretation. So as I sit here and think about my goals for the next quarter, for this month, and really kind of the next phase of this business, this is not something that's a big, wild, hairy goal. This is not something that should be, crazy or outlandish. It's something that should come from a place internally for me of being calm and collected, and it should be a goal that I'm confident I can achieve and that I know the steps necessary to get there. If we turn to the Yellow Book, they have another great line on this. In this way, finding no opponent, the sharp edges of the weapons of evil become dulled. For the same reasons, we should not combat our own faults directly. As long as we wrestle with them, they continue victorious. Finally, the best way to fight evil is to make energetic progress in the good. I really like this idea, and the way I interpret it as, instead of combating evil, whether that's external or even internal, directly, in this situation, in this hexagram, it's best to just transcend it. I'm not going to say ignore it, but don't even make it worth engaging with. I was talking with my brother about something similar, and the idea goes that when trying to rid yourself of bad habits, it's actually better to focus on good habits and doing those good habits more than it is to focus on trying to get rid of the bad habits. The example he gave is doing yoga in the morning. That's the good habit. By doing yoga for 30 minutes every morning, he said his eating got better, his sleep got better, he went to bed earlier because he knew he was going to get up and do yoga. He didn't want to have that beer after work because he said, you know what, I had a great start to my day, I'm going to get up in the morning and do yoga. I don't want that, I don't need that. And I think within the hexagram, it's similar. Instead of trying to directly combat evil, it's better just to focus on the good and transcend it. The next element of this proclamation is doing it in a selfless way. If we go to the I-Ching book, it says, in the process of making a public resolution, you must openly examine all aspects of yourself. It goes on to say that you need to get rid of pride, your self-satisfaction, and any other feelings of, an elevated self that you might have. In the yellow book, it says, in the same way, in developing his character, he takes care not to become hardened in obscenity, but to remain receptive to impressions by help of strict and continuous self-examination. This process of making a proclamation is the process of self-reflection. And this proclamation should be done in a selfless way, in a way of putting yourself aside, and in a way of reflecting on yourself and trying to figure out, what do I need to improve on? What do I need to work on? For me, I think a lot of that is my conduct as a business owner. A lot of times, and I've talked about this before, a lot of times I see things as I want them to be, not really as they are. I make these big, grand proclamations that, I'm happy if I hit 80% of them. But they come across as very kind of self-indulgent and kind of elevating my sense of self. So I'll say, my goals for this quarter to hit XYZ $1 million in revenue, or probably tens of thousands of dollars of revenue. And it feels good to say those things, but there's really no substance behind them because, internally I know that it's going to be hard to hit those. The last element I want to talk to is turning to the I-Ching book and looking at the section at the bottom that talks about if you receive this hexagram in a static state. The great power in the lower trigram, Qian, strength, stimulates and brings to fruition Tui, openness in words above. Receiving this hexagram without change indicates that whatever your inquiry, the true struggle is within. Make a verbal resolution to throw out old opinions and experiment with new ideas. Only through determined, steady, open progress will change come. I really like this. Now, it's kind of hard to hear because it's not external, the factors that are going on in my life. It's all about me. It's about internal change that needs to happen. Now, it talks here about throw out old opinions and experiment with new ideas. This is really relevant to me in that I've decided I need to go back and get a job. This is for personal and professional reasons. This is for my own financial sake and for the financial sake of my business going forward. Now, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, am I willing to get a job? No way I would have been willing. I would have thought that's a ridiculous idea. I'm not open to that. But over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's time for me to go get a job. This is the week that I start applying for jobs. So this is a really timely sentence. Throw out old opinions and experiment with new ideas. The next, only through determined, steady, open progress will change come. I think this really goes back to the whole idea of self-reflection. I'm trying to work on a lot of shortcomings I have as a business owner, as a manager of a small business, and obviously as a person. And I think it's through that, steady self-reflection. That's why I throw the I-Ching every week. That's why I journal every day. Is trying to self-reflect and find it like an unbiased opinion of myself that I'm able to work on. So that's my interpretation of what Hexagram 43 means for me this week and the best way to conduct myself. I think it's a week of breaking through, of real change, but it's also really important for me to internally make these proclamations to myself and to those around me. And most importantly, as I'm making these proclamations, it's important to do it in a selfless, ego aside manner. I hope this is helpful, and we'll touch base at the end of the week to see how the week actually went and what I think of this hexagram after that.